Well, I thought it was great to be back in the hall. It's great to be back in front of our fans. And I know our kids were excited, obviously, to play a real live game with people inside of this special place. So I thought there were some really good things inside of the game. There were certainly things that we know that we're going to have to be so much better at. But this was a night that was just about us and trying to play everybody. Getting them minutes on the floor, and in that we were able to accomplish that. So, the 12 turnovers I'm not very pleased by. I think it was going into the fourth, a little bit under the maybe it was a 4-minute, last 4 minute. At that point, I could be wrong, but we had 7 turnovers, and I felt like we didn't, and then we came out and we turned it over. So that was a little bit disappointing, but. I thought for the most part it was a nice first way to start with this new group of Hoosiers, and I think that the more we play together, real games, I do think that our best basketball is still ahead of us with this group.
Questions for Coach? Can you guys introduce yourself as well? First game, so.
Hi, Talia Goodman, Hoosier Network. You mentioned you weren't so happy with the turnovers, but you said there were a few things that you were really pleased with. I'm wondering if you could pinpoint 1 or 2 of those things that you were really happy with.
Well, obviously Grace Berger was really good tonight. It's always fun. I'm so blessed that I get that front row seat to watch that kid play. I mean, she's such a pleasure to watch. She's played her entire career off the ball here at Indiana, and now. She's playing the point for us, which I think is, obviously something that she can handle. But it's different for her, But yet she's still so effective in so many ways. It's great to see that, Mac looking like the old Mac. Thought that was, important for our fans to be able to see. We didn't get to see that. For last year after she got injured, and so it was great to see her back. Although Mac's still working on getting her stamina and her conditioning where it needs to be. And I thought Sid Parrish came in and gave us great minutes off the bench, really gave us some energy. It's obvious that we do have some shooters out there. I thought we got great shots in the first half. They just didn't go down for us. So you make a couple of those, you feel a little bit differently, going into halftime. With our shots. But I thought Lexi came in and did a great job, especially there in the fourth, of really playing well in the open floor. Lily was the recipient of a lot of that, because she runs the floor, her commitment to running the floor. Lily's been great just being around the rim and being very active. And so we'll go back and certainly we'll watch film. We'll probably pick out more of the things we have to get so much better at than the things we did well. But, all in all, I thought it was a good first wave for this group. We got 7 new kids that have never played in Assembly Hall. Certainly there's very high expectations for this group. So, games like this are so important, for especially those new faces, the Sarah Scaglias and the Sydney Parishes and, the Alyssa Garys that have already played in college, but yet this is a different type of deal, being here at Indiana.
Matt Seabury, Indiana Daily student. You mentioned on Thursday you hadn't totally set the starting lineup for this season. Was the starting lineup we saw this today what we can expect moving forwards, or are you still undecided about that? What did you learn from
I don't know. I think you'll see us with different lineups. We've always here in the last probably since I've been here. Usually we stay with the starting lineup, but I think this is an unusual group of players that we have. Yarden is going to be special. I thought she was quiet tonight, but we have plenty of evidence just watching her in practice that she's going to be very, very special inside of our program. And we feel like Sid started in some of our our other scrimmages that we've had. But we certainly are mixing things up right now. We're trying to find rotations. We're trying to figure out the combinations that work well together. I do think there's something special about being able to bring, players or a player like Sid off the bench that can give us great energy from the beginning, and she can give us a great scoring threat. Unfortunately, last year, well, in the last couple years, you've looked at our stat sheets and there's one category and it says bench, right? And I think we've talked about it where everybody else's bench, had the 16 to 18 points, and then you looked at the Indiana bench and we were maybe 2 points, 4 points, 6 points. I think we are deeper. I think we have, kids that are going to be able to come off of our bench. Whether they could be starters, they probably could be, but we need them. To serve and do maybe play a different role. This is going to be a team that's going to have to make sacrifices. There's no question. They've started at all of their other institutions. Sarah, I'm talking about, and Sid, and then you have Yarden, who's been in Israel playing pro basketball. With legit pros from the United States and starting, and so all these kids are used to starting, but. You know what the deal is. There's 200 minutes. Not everybody can start, but everybody does have a role to play on this basketball team, and there's gonna be some sacrifices that are gonna have to be made. But all the great teams understand that piece of it. That we all have a role, but our roles could change, our minutes could change, the starting lineup could change. But at the end of the day, we all have to be about winning the basketball game. And that's our job, my job, as our staff, to figure that out as we go. But to say that we're fluid right now, we're pretty fluid in terms of who those starters are going to be. But certainly, it's a great problem to have.
Kevin in the middle of the wall.
Kevin Burr, the Hoosier Network. You mentioned this earlier about Grace kind of taking on this new role. I know it's the first exhibition game. Mm-hmm. It's still early, but is that kind of the way you anticipate her to play out this season, kind of be the lead on top of that ball, on top of the backcourt?
Yeah, I think tonight, I will, and, we'll go back. I'm hoping that, Sarah's played a little bit of point at Minnesota. Chloe was a point guard in high school. Lexi Bargesser, I think, is a kid that's going to be able to come off our bench, and we're going to be able, once she gets comfortable and more confident at playing at this level, I think there will be games and moments where we're going to be able to move Grace off the ball. But right now, for what we need Grace to be for us, is she needs to be our leader out there on the floor, because she's seasoned, she's our vet, she understands how we do things. And she can still be effective, whether she has the ball in her hand or whether she plays off the ball, because she's a special player.
Will and then Kyle.
Will Foley, Indiana Daily student. Lots of roster turnover this year, but yet 27 forced turnovers. Kentucky Wesleyan 36.7 from the floor. Not every basketball player is willing to defend, but how do you get your entire team as a collective to buy into the defensive end?
Well, if you're going to come to Indiana, we've always hung our hat on that side of the ball, and if you're going to come to Indiana, you're going to be expected to guard, to defend. And if that's not what you're interested in doing first, then maybe this isn't where you need to be, because we're always going to put a high premium on that side of the ball. We realize we got to score points, and there are different philosophies. There's different ways to win games, but we have always relied on what we can be and do, and with our defense. And we always feel like if we can be disciplined, if we can be sound, if we can be great in all of our rotations, if we can play harder, if we can be grittier, we're going to always give ourselves a chance to win, because there's going to be games like tonight. We shoot at 59%, which is 58%, for the game, which is great. But we sometimes aren't going to be able to shoot at that high of a clip, right? So on those nights, you got to make sure that you can rely on the other, right, which is being great defensively.
Hey, Coach, Kyle back here, Sports Report Media. I'm going to expand on my question I asked at the IU Media Day. You were standing up there by the championship banners in the background, but Talk about tradition, the tradition you're building here. Because, I mean, I look at the crowd, I see people really into this. You know, you got me hooked last year. You know, we're back, we're excited. But just talk about that tradition. And, you know, and especially you just talk about all those players. You got a lot of starters because last year, you know, Painter had all those guys. He had 10 starters. He kept talking about that last year. But, you know, it's just tradition. People want to be here now. And it's really cool to watch. But what's that mean to you?
Well, thank you for the question, and thank you for being here and coming back, I should say. Again, it's what we set out to do. You know, eight years ago was to build this thing the right way with the right kinds of players, and you know, that's where I think we get. We have some satisfaction in really believing as a staff that we built it the right way. It's one thing to be able to climb. It's another thing to be able to sustain the level of winning and success that we're hoping to build and have here. And you have to have the right staff, and you certainly have to have the right players. And so. And you're absolutely right. What we set out here to do was we knew the tradition had always been on the men's side, and we wanted to build our own. And when people would speak of Indiana basketball, it just wasn't men's basketball. It was also women's basketball. To look around, and I thought our crowd was great, but you know we've seen better crowds here in the hall. You know, I do think that there's a love affair that especially the Bloomington community has with women's basketball, and probably because, you know, for the last, 3 or 4 years, we've been playing in postseason, and we've been playing, you know, into, you know, the NCAA tournament and whatnot. So I think there's been a lot of interest in following, because this is such a great basketball community. You know, they latched onto what we were doing in women's basketball. Therefore, I think we have the following now that we've created, which is really cool. And so I'm really, you know, I want it to get bigger, though. You know, I'm a little greedy when it comes to that. I still want there to be the whole bowl, but I want there to be, you know, 10, 11,000 people inside of this place every night watching women's basketball.